Forged secretly in mortuary archaeology's hottest furnace, it's Archaeodeath.
Right.
Welcome everyone to this Archaeodeath interview in support of the 1st of June Offa's Dyke Collaboratory Conference, which is supported generously by the Offa's Dyke Association, and so it's all every bit appropriate that we have as part of our digital package to support the event. The chairman of the ODA, Dave McGlade, is with us. Hi Dave, how are you?
Hi Howard, thanks very much. Fine, thank you. Indeed, yes.
So I'm looking forward to the conference, which at the time of recording is still over a week away, and we've got other interviews online that will support it. But talking to you is going to be really interesting to sort of put flesh on the bones of understanding the Offa's Dyke Association and all of the work it does, and to help people understand the charitable support that goes on for the path and the monument and so on. But I wanted to kick off by getting you to introduce yourself and tell all our viewers and listeners who you are.
Okay, so Howard, yeah, I'm Dave McGlade. And my journey here is an interesting one. I mean, basically 30 years ago, I used to work in the civil service in Birkenhead in the DHSS office, and when I was in my early 30s, decided that my IQ was dropping off the cliff, and decided, well, I wanted a career change, and basically went back to school, back to college, did lots of qualifications at night school, and was very fortunate to get the first rung on my countryside management career ladder. I was actually the Offa's Dyke Path Assistant Trail Officer for almost 3 years. So, yes, you didn't know that. So
no,
yeah.
I always thought you came from elsewhere too. I didn't realize you started at the monument in your journey. So into this.
I did, and it was a marvelous opportunity. I was just like a sponge, learning everything about the countryside. I was discovering, what monuments were, scheduled monuments. It was a fantastic sort of 3 years, and during that time, I was very fortunate when the county council had funding. They funded me to go to Birkbeck College at weekends. So I had 2.5 years of distance learning. I had umpteen assignments. It was like the equivalent of a degree by distance learning.
Wow,
And
yes.
I qualified with the diploma in countryside management. And for my dissertation, I embarked on a condition survey of a section of Offa's Dyke. And I mean, it's still there. But that experience, my 3 years on the Dyke, my work at Birkbeck, the qualification there, the experience from the dissertation sort of survey, when I saw a post advertised for the Hadrian's Wall Path National Trail Officer, I thought I might have half a chance with this one. So my experience was the perfect CV. It was a perfect CV. So
You went over to the Romans. I thought you came from the Romans, you say.
I was loaned to the Romans. I was loaned to another period in history, and I was interviewed in Northumberland in Morpeth in 1995. And when I was interviewed there, I said, if I were to be offered the job, I would give public amenity, the management of the path, setting up the path, and conservation equal weighting. Both would take 50% equal weighting. And I thought I'd blown it. I thought, no, they're going to want to hear that, amenity is more important, But no, they liked it. And I was given the opportunity to set up from scratch on Hadrian's Wall, devise, research, and set up from scratch management systems that were such that the legacy would be that Hadrian's Wall Path would be managed in a sustainable way without compromising the integrity of the monument. Easier said than done. That's what I said I would do. And I then embarked on initially, the first 15 years, which is the most wonderful period of my life, to be honest. I mean, besides getting married, of course, and other things that happened in life. But put it this way, on a Friday afternoon, I couldn't wait till Monday morning. I could not wait for the next week to begin. So I worked with some marvelous people, the Countryside Commission of the day, then the Countryside Agency it became. They were very, very, very supportive. I had a most wonderful time there. I had a budget, a lottery funded budget that enabled me to, we'll put it this way, everything I asked for, it was funded. You know, I had no problem at all. These were the marvelous heady days of the 90s, which is sadly, that time has passed. But it did enable me to set up a field team between us, and together with the archaeological expertise from Rachel Newman, who was the director of Oxford Archaeology North, we had archaeological expertise, field management expertise, and just a great melting pot of ideas. And we set up some marvelous management systems. And I am pleased to say that those management systems are still being enacted today. And I still cite Hadrian's Wall and Hadrian's Wall Path as the benchmark of gold standard for any heritage access project to aspire to. And then, of course, I came back to Offa's Dyke when I retired, and I was persuaded to come back here. And Dave, would you take on the ODA? And I thought, well, not really, but I was persuaded to do it. And here I am 7 years later, still chairman of the Offa's Dyke Association. And so, you know, there we go. So that's my route. And I've learned a lot, and I want to, there's one little chink in the story. Shortly before I left Northumberland, I received a phone call one sort of late evening. It was in November 2016 from Will Davis at Cadw, the inspector at Cadw. And Will said to me, Dave, I didn't know Will at the time. And he says, we hear you're coming back tonight. And I said, well, yes. What's the catch? He said, would you be interested? Would the ODA be interested in having a conversation with Cadw in Historic England about basically the conservation of Offa's Dyke? He said, there is a view that the management of Offa's Dyke it's gone to seed for centuries, and it needs, left the way it is, there won't be much of it left in another 2 or 3 centuries. Would you be interested in having a conversation with us? And I said yes. And within days of arriving here, we had our first meeting with Cadw in Historic England at the Offa's Dyke Centre. And to cut a long story short, we embarked upon a condition survey of the monument. The ODA helped to fund, we were minor partners in this, mind. We helped to fund a condition survey of the monument undertaken by Andre Berry, one of the experts in monument management. And Andre was left to survey the monument in one season using the same methodology. This is the first time the monument's ever been surveyed end to end using the same methodology, one surveyor, with consistent, reliable data. Andre reported back to us at a steering group meeting, and he said, my headline statistic is that only 8.7% of the monument is regarded as being in favourable condition. Consider that, 91% or so of the monument is considered to be in unfavourable and declining condition. Would the ODA be interested in taking this forward? I mean, it's a real shock. Nobody expected. We expected some serious reportage, but 92% almost in poor condition. To the enormous credit of Cadw in Historic England, massive credit. They secured the funding to appoint a conservation project officer to Offa the Dyke, and appointed this very, very well qualified person called Helen Upson, and she is well into her first, well, most of the way through her first 3-year project. And now, of course, we're looking at the future of the project. And we really want the project to continue. It's essential that the project continues. Helen has demonstrated that what can be done in devising new management systems to ensure that the monument is to be managed sustainably in the future. It's a huge, huge project. It'll take a generation to turn back the tide of what we call of benign neglect, centuries of benign neglect. We say in the report that nobody has deliberately set out to damage Offa's Dyke. It's just the way it's been for centuries. But this
because
is
it's sorry, go on. No, because it's a monument that doesn't have. You'd think it has nice, easy edges, but it doesn't, does it? Because in places its bank is deep and been recut as a drainage ditch, or is wide and shallow, but still a significant feature. In other places, the bank is hardly there. In other places, the bank is huge. And there's other features up and down it associated with it, and different farmers, different land uses, woodland. It's such a complicated monument because it's so big. I mean, is that a fair thing to say, or probably a simplified thing to say? But
look, very fair thing to say, and it's double the length of Hadrian's Wall, and it's we're getting off to it's a standing start. On Hadrian's Wall,
yeah.
when I was on the wall, I got off to a flying start because of one very, very clever sentence that was in the government's permission letter to establish the trail. I think it was Mr. Heseltine signed this letter.
No way.
Back in the early 90s, 1994, I think. And the minister said the most appropriate surface for Hadrian's Wall path is a continuous green sward path. That engineering solutions will be the last resort. You must demonstrate that you cannot manage it in any other way. And so that was the sort of my ticket. I could go to any sort of individual organization, any forum, and say, this is what the government's told me to do. It's got to be a green sward path. Now, on Offa's Dyke, of course, now, and we did manage it. It was managed like a humming sewing machine, to be honest. We learned how to do it. And now on Offa's Dyke, let's talk about the National Trail first. When Offa's Dyke Path National Trail was being designed in the 1960s, talking a long time ago, they didn't give a moment's thought to the effect of walkers' feet on friable monuments that in the winter the soils are saturated and they're even more liable to erosion and damage. We actually have a letter from the Welsh office from 1969 or 70, actually 69, which said that in our opinion, the most appropriate place to put the path is on the crest of the monument. And that's a decision that everybody regretted. And the ODA were complicit in this because we thought at the time, yes, we want to see the path open.
Yeah.
And of course, our founder, Frank Noble, who was an archaeologist and local Knighton school teacher, he wanted to see the path open because he believed that people can only understand the monument if they can access it. But of course,
Absolutely.
No thought was given to how the path would be managed, and all the gates and stiles and bridges within the monument, scheduled monument area, have led to a lot of pinch points in erosion. And that's something that Helen and her project is attempting to put right by working with the National Trail team and everybody connected with the management of the monument. But in Andre's report, only 20% of the damage was attributable or is attributable to recreation. 80% of the damage, the causes of damage, are attributable to woodland, farming, developments of all sorts, roads, utilities, boring pipes through it. And so Helen's job is a much bigger job than just looking at the National Trail and its management.
There's large parts of the monument are away from the National Trail, aren't they?
There are, and it was a real shame in a way that the 50% of the monument is out with the trail. And in a way, it's a good thing. There are cases where we learned on Hadrian's Wall that, especially in the arable fields, the presence of the footpath provides a level of monitoring from the public. If the public are there, then people will observe things, and they do phone and email and write letters to say, is this right? Somebody's been doing this at the monument. So it's a two-edged sword. I mean,
okay, yes, I see your point. So if it's like churches that are open or closed, people say that actually an unlocked church is less likely to be vandalized than a locked church. Or if I don't know if I've got an authoritative source for that anecdote, but the fact is, if there's people might turn up, it actually sort of creates that sense of deterrent, and you say the reporting of potential activities. But then there are large areas that are saved, but also no one gets to appreciate them. When there's some beautiful countryside. I mean, near me is the Pentrabuchan and a wonderful stretch to their Cadogan Far Hall and towards the Clywedog, and Plas Power is, I think, Woodland Trust, but there's places where you can walk and appreciate the monument, but large stretches where there is a local footpath, but it's got none of the signage, none of the cachet, none of the none of the long distance walkers are going to come there, and it's beautiful countryside. And I do understand why they took it where they did, to take in the majestic Trevor rocks and and over to Llandegla and up onto the Clwydian range, and no question that as a long distance walker that takes you through some of the most beautiful countryside in Wales, but in terms of the monument, that neglects some really cool bits, even if not well preserved, really interesting bits, like the village of Frith, where the road through the village is the monument, is on the monument, is on the the monument's destroyed, but the village is part of the story of the monument, the same way as Knighton is. It's the town on the Dyke. So I just it's a frustrating aspect, isn't it, that there are bits that don't get that attention, but
yeah, well, at the moment, I mean, in the fullness of time, I'd like to see more of the monument accessible, but properly managed this time.
Yes.
I mean, we wouldn't put our signature to a new section of path that sits on the monument. We wouldn't entertain that at all. We'd want to see it simply on level ground alongside, next to it. It's as simple as that. We're not, we don't want to compromise anybody's amenity, but my experience is that people understand why things. Well, put it this way: I had the Offa Dyke Centre recently. There was an Australian lady, and she was visiting Britain for the first time, and she said, "I just don't get it. Why are people allowed to walk on the Dyke and trash it? What's going on?" And I said, "Well, we're trying to turn back the tide of benign neglect. This is the way it was designed in the 60s, but there's a project now underway." And she was reassured that in the fullness of time, these things will be changed.
Do you can you tell us a little bit about the centre in Knighton and how that relates to the association and the path and the monument?
Yeah, so thanks to the fact that Frank Noble lived in Knighton, we have the Offa Dyke Centre here in Knighton. When Frank was alive, the first Offa Dyke office, I suppose, with a couple of small rooms attached to it, was based in the old youth hostel, which in turn was the Edwardian School, which is still next door to us. So we've had a presence, a visitor destination presence in Knighton since the fairly early 1980s. In the 1990s, driven by one of our founder members, or two of our founder members, Kathy and Ernie Kay, who are no longer with us, their vision was to, when the Youth Hostels Association, who owned the building, decided they wanted to sell it, we had to leave. We were given reasonable notice, and Kathy and Ernie said, well, there's a nice patch of land next door. Could we put together a project to build a purpose-built heritage visitor centre? And basically, Kathy and Ernie drove that project. It was a joint partnership project with Powys County Council, who designed and constructed the building. The Offa Dyke Association, thanks to a very generous gift from the Kays, funded 10% of the cost of the building. And in 1999, it was declared open. This really quite wonderful building. I will say, if we were starting off today, we wouldn't build something quite as grand. The business case for the building in the 90s was that we would have various sources of income. We had 2 National Trail officers in the building. In fact, I'm sitting in their office now, which is now our library. So we had income from 2 trail officers. We ran the Tourist Information Centre on behalf of the county, and we received a service level agreement payment for that. So the 2 trail officers were withdrawn to County Hall, or about 12, 13 years ago. We lost that income. We lost the income from the TIC. That stopped about 6 years ago. So we were left with a large gaping hole in our finances. And as a charity, while the county remains a very, very good landlord, we had to make up £20,000 or so in income, lost income. So we wouldn't be where we are today without the K's efforts and vision. But it's quite an effort to make this place pay.
So it's a cafe, you've got an exhibition, you know, a renewed exhibition as well, and resources.
Yeah, I mean, during the COVID 2 years or so, when we were more or less closed for 2 years, we applied for and received a very generous grant off the Welsh Government, which I take every opportunity to acknowledge and thank the Welsh Government for this. It enabled us to commission Professor Keith Ray to curate a brand new exhibition here at the centre. In fact, the Welsh Government funding allowed us to extend the exhibition into a small room. So we have an extended exhibition, brand new, it's only 3 years old, brilliant exhibition curated by Keith. We installed LED lighting throughout the building. It was redecorated. So we have a really, really splendid space that's now available to the public on the days that we open. And on the days that we're not open, it's available for hire, for conferences, for meetings. For Helen Upson and her project, they have meetings. We all meet here. We want to see the place used. We want to see people come and use us. And we want to extend our education and outreach work. We want to extend our presence along the Dyke. It's extremities, which is why it's great, Howard, to be co-partnering, the collaboratory, with this conference in Allan Waters on the 1st of June.
Yes, it's going to be exciting, isn't it? And well, Keith and I are sort of organised the programme, but you've been behind the scenes, beavering away, sorting it all out, and it's a really good partnership. And we hope to be in different venues back down in Knighton and also other potential places further south in future years, because there's ongoing academic research, not only about the Dyke, but also about the broader themes that it connects to. And in terms of the modern conversation about borders, identities, conflict, you know, walls of different kinds, ancient and modern, are never far from people's minds, both sadly, but also it's not irrelevant to keep an eye on these ancient monuments and their sometimes unexpected and unwelcome continued significance. But yeah, it's certainly a part of the Borderlands heritage, isn't it? That is, you know, and the centre is such a wonderful place, because not only do you have the building, but it's obviously a historic town right on the doorstep, and of course the Dyke is there, and you can walk up onto Panpunton Hill and beyond to the north or to the south. You know, the monument stretches from the Dyke in, and so it's all part of the story of the place, isn't it? It's wonderful.
It is. I mean, there's a piece of Dyke 1 minute's walk from this window here. You know, and it's recently, well, the diseased ash tree is recently removed by the county council, and it's now accessible. So it's a great sort of learning resource just here. The centre gives us an amazing presence, to be honest, and I wouldn't want to be without the Offa Dyke Centre at all. But we do want to. It has to pay for itself, you know. And how do we manage to pay for it? You mentioned our little cafe. When we lost our TIC grant, we devised a small tea room cafe, and it's been our lifeline, to be honest. But we are a membership-based charity. We're a charity incorporated organisation, and basically our members scattered across the UK and beyond. We have members in Canada and Australia and Belgium and one or two other places.
Wow.
They're helping to subsidise the centre and what we do.
And it's important to say that at this point, he says, I'm going to do the obvious plug. You've got an online shop. You've got lots of online resources. You're on social media, and we'll put all the descriptions in the description for the video, so people can follow up and learn more and offer a donation or buy some fun Offa Dyke themed merchandise, or and remember it when you're visiting the monument and the and Knighton. It's a wonderful place to be. And I wondered what you think of the future, Dave, about where it goes next, because you've got the ongoing plans. You're just a newly reorganized or reconstituted, I don't know what the best phrase is, charity. There's plenty that you've done and achieved in those 7 years, but I mean, there's always more to do. What do you think is next for the association and the monument?
The first thing I think we are there now in terms of sustainably managing the centre. So it needs a business case that pays for itself. Once I'm satisfied with that, and I think I'm just we are, yeah, the business model works now as long as we retain our members and we have some good weather. But I want to see the association achieve more in terms of community involvement in other places along the monument, and our education and outreach. I'll explain one of the 2 projects that we have in mind, and then how we might achieve them, how we might deliver them. I want to set up our contribution to Helen's conservation project is to assist with the monitoring of the monument, its condition, looking forward. I want to establish a series of fixed point photographic monitoring points at places along the monument. It'll start small and we'll roll them out eventually until all of the monument is being monitored, such that we build up a long-term data resource. That the real value in having fixed term photography is not this year or next year, it's in 10 or 20 or 30 years time. We're looking at long-term trends in the condition of the monument and how its land use is changing as farming will change. It's how the monument responds to the changing land use will be monitored in the photography. In order that we can achieve that, we need people on the ground to actually take the photographs, and that will take coordination. Coordination will come at a cost. So we need to find funding to help pay for this long-term coordination, to manage the volunteers in the field who will take our photographs for us. And there needs to be a place where the photographic archives can be, well, that's the word, archived. Because the data needs to be shared, open source for those that want to research it and study it. So that's quite a nice project. I set up that same monitoring regime on Hadrian's Wall in the late 90s, and it's still operating today. That data resource is still there to be studied.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a nice project, and if the ODA were to have a legacy, I think that would be something I'd want to see. The other thing that we'd like to do, of course, is have more community projects like the conference at Allan Waters. We are considering, not considering, we are going to appoint at some point this summer, I hope, a development director to help us provide the expertise in sort of heritage management, museum management, the expertise and energy and drive, the resource to actually implement these ideas. We have a great bunch of trustees, but most of them live far-flung around the UK. We need somebody local working for us in Knighton to help us deliver these projects. So we have a management strategy. We have a 5-year plan to employ a director to do the monitoring, community involvement, education, and be involved and help to contribute wherever we can with the research agenda. We want to help fund projects. We want to help fund research, but we need to grow our membership. It has to be paid for. We want to grow our membership. We need to increase our income, find new uses for the Offa's Dyke Centre. So we need people to engage with us and help us achieve it. We can't do it all on our own. We need new people to come in and help us achieve this.
Well, thank you so much, Dave, for sharing your perspectives, and it's so exciting to see how your long-term career expertise has enriched and developed what's happening, and it will still be happening in the future along the monument, the path, and at the centre. So, we're going to hear more about this at the conference itself, and I know you're going to talk to the future there as well. But I'm really appreciative of you giving us this opportunity to record something that sort of will hopefully be available to people who might not otherwise come to such day events, or might be interested from a student perspective, interested in heritage or archaeology or history, or indeed as thinking about around the world. People, it's amazing who comes across these videos and learns something new about Britain's past and the borderlands of England and Wales and its rich history and heritage. So thank you so much, Dave.
My pleasure, Howard, as always. Thank you very much for your time, I just appreciate being part of a team, really, working with you and Pete and the Collaboratory and many others, of course, as well, of course. But thank you very much for your time.
Follow Archaeodeath on WordPress, or you'll never learn.